Good morning, children. Today we are going to see Chemistry Chapter 3 Fiber to Fabric. Okay, so in the last class we discussed about how the wool fibers are made into fabric. Wool is a natural fiber obtained from the animal source, that is from the goat or sheep. Next we are moving to the next natural fiber, that is the silk, which is obtained from the silkworm, and how it is made into a fabric. If you ask your mother or your grandmother, she would show you how a silk saree will look like. To make that sarees, the silk fiber is needed. Where do we get this silk fiber from? From the silkworm. Okay. So the process of rearing the silkworms to obtain the silk fibers from them is called sericulture. That is, you're going to grow the silkworm and take proper care of them. That is what I mean as rearing of silkworm. Rearing means you're going to take proper care of the silkworms to obtain the fibers from them. That process is called sericulture. Okay. The silk fibers are usually very soft and they are very strong. Can you imagine how strong they are? They are strong, equal to that of a steel wire. Okay, the silk fibers are usually very strong, that in such a way that they are equal to that of a steel wire. Okay, and they may be different textures. Okay, the silk obtained from the silkworms may be of different texture, like coarse, smooth, and shiny too. They are of different texture, means different types. Like how did we see in the wool as a fiber when obtained from Angora goat, or obtained from Lamba goat, or obtained from yak. They are of different textures, isn't it? The same way the silk obtained from the silkworms again exist in different textures as coarse, smooth, and shiny. Based on the texture only, we have different types of silk like tussar silk, muga silk, kosa silk. Okay, so they are elastic in nature and they are lustrous. Lustrous means again they are shiny. The meaning of lustrous already we learned that in grade 6, that is your shiny appearance. And they can be made into different colors with the help of dyeing. Okay, these are some characteristics of how a silk fiber will be available. Okay, now let us get into the process how the silk fiber is made into a fabric. It is always a set of processes, right? So before going into that process, you should know the life cycle of a silkworm. What is the silkworm doing in its life? Its life cycle, if you know, means then the process of converting the silk fiber into a fabric is very easy. The same is going to happen there. Okay, let us get to know this first. That is the life cycle of a silkworm. You have a butterfly or the silkworm. Okay, so what does the butterfly do? This is a female silkworm or butterfly will lay eggs in the mulberry plants. Mulberry plants will have the fresh leaves. Okay, they have the fresh leaves in their plant. So these female butterflies will lay eggs in these mulberry plants. So always the eggs hatch, right? These eggs hatch after certain days. Okay, so that is called your larva stage. So when this is, let us take this as a leaf, the butterfly will lay eggs like this. The eggs which are all ready to get dispatched will be, that is a matured state of the egg, will be called as your larva stage. Okay, the ready stage to hatch is your larva stage. Once the eggs are hatched, that is hatched means they are broken and the organism inside the egg comes out. That is your caterpillar or silkworm, the new baby silkworm. Okay, that is called as the caterpillar. How does a caterpillar look like? With two eyes and a very fluffy body. Okay. So the caterpillar, what does it do is, it keeps on eating. It eats the leaves of the mulberry plants and it starts to grow in size. Okay, so the caterpillar will eat for around 25 to 30 days. Continuously eating is only its job. And it keeps on eating and grows into a bigger size. That is called pupa. Okay. Once it is grown fully, that it knows, okay, more than this I cannot eat anymore, I need to take rest. When it decides like that, it starts to take rest. That stage is called cocoon. So when it is resting to protect itself from the other organism, it shouldn't be eaten by any other nearby organisms like crow or hen, right? So it has to safeguard itself while resting. So what does it do is, to safeguard itself, the pupa, that is your caterpillar, will develop a protective shell in the form of an 8, like this. Around it you will have your caterpillar inside, and it starts to produce some fibers in the form of 8, and it acts as a protective shell for the caterpillar during its resting stage. That protective shell is called as your cocoon. We collect this cocoon only and use as silk fibers. Did you get it? So I repeat the life cycle of a silkworm. A female silkworm, a butterfly, will lay eggs in mulberry plants. These mulberry plants will have the fresh leaves, so they lay in the mulberry plants. The eggs, once they are matured enough and ready to be hatched, that is ready to be dispatched or broken so that the organism comes out, is called larva stage. Once it is hatched, the caterpillar will come out. Once it comes out, it eats its own eggshell. The caterpillar's only job after coming out is only to eat. Whatever it finds, it eats. It eats its own eggshell itself. Understood? Then they eat the leaves of the plant continuously for nearly 25 to 30 days. They keep on eating. So while eating, what it happens, they increase in size. They become very big, like this. From a small caterpillar to a very big caterpillar it becomes. That is called as pupa. So now it has to take rest because it has eaten too much and it needs to take rest. While taking rest, to safeguard itself or to protect it from the other organisms, it develops a fiber as a shell, or as a protective shell around it in the form of a 8. That fibers are called as your silk fibers, and it is now in the form of a cocoon. Okay, we collect a cocoon, that is the silk fibers only, and we make it as a fabric. This is the life cycle of a silkworm. Okay children, so now did you understand how a silk fiber is formed? The next what are we going to see is, we know how the silk fiber is formed from a silkworm. How are we going to collect this silk fiber and make it into a fabric only, we are going to see next. For this only we have 3 processes. So be very clear during our exams what are they asking. Whether are they asking you the life cycle of a silkworm or the manufacturing process of a silk fiber to silk fabric. Okay, so fiber to fabric manufacturing process of a silk includes rearing of silkworm, reeling of silk, silk fibers to silk threads. The same thing process only. How a fiber is collected and taken care, and how it is being washed and produced it as a usable fiber, and how the fiber is converted into a yarn or thread and then to the fabric. So right from 6th standard, the manufacturing process is the same for all the things. Right? So rearing of silkworm means how do we take care of the silkworm? Let us see that now. So you have the female butterfly, the same process of the life cycle of a silkworm, okay? They lay eggs. Now, the laid eggs will not be left as such in the mulberry plant's leaf. What do the farmers do is, this process is called, the entire process is called sericulture, okay? The laid eggs by the female butterfly will be collected in some sheet or paper and stored and sold to the silkworm farmers, who take care of the silkworms to obtain the silk fiber, who do the process of sericulture. Okay, so the laid eggs will be stored and sold to the silkworm farmers. Now they are going to rear the silkworm. They are the taking care of silkworms. They will keep the eggs in the suitable condition of moderate temperature and humidity, and they will keep the eggs in the warmed state so that the larva stage is crossed and the caterpillar comes out. Okay, so this is the manufacturing process. First stage, that is the rearing of silkworm. What does the farmers do? They collect the eggs and they store it separately under suitable temperature and humidity. Enough of warmthness is given to the eggs so that the larva stage is crossed and caterpillar comes out. Now, what is the work of the caterpillar? The caterpillar will eat. We need to give it enough of food, isn't it? Otherwise, the caterpillar will die soon. So, the caterpillar is made to eat the leaves of the plants for again 25 to 30 days. So, caterpillar, after eating, it becomes as a pupa and it develops the silk fibers in the form of 8 around it as a protective shell. That is called as the cocoons. Now the farmers will take the cocoons and keep it in a small bamboo chamber. Okay, it may be difficult for you to understand, but after watching this video, I have given you 2 reference video. If you watch that, you will understand it better. So the cocoons are stored again separately, and from the cocoon we collect the silk fibers. Okay. So this is the first stage, rearing of silkworm. In this stage, until the cocoons are formed and stored in separate small bamboo chambers. Until that, we saw the first stage, rearing of silkworm. Next, let us see how the reeling of silk is done. Reeling means separating, okay? So reeling, how do we separate the silk fibers from the cocoon? That is what the second stage. The cocoons will be boiled in water so that the silk fibers are separated from the caterpillar. Understood? Now, the cocoons will be, which are all stored in the separate small bamboo chambers, will be boiled all together so that the silk fibers and all come out separately. This process of separation of silk fibers from the cocoon is called reeling. Okay? So you would have already learned that the jute, which is a natural plant fiber source, is separated from the stem by immersing it in water. Cotton bolls, after combing, are giving us the cotton fibers. Wool, they are cutting the layer of the skin along with the hair from the animal and they are washing it. That is called as the scoring process is done to remove the fiber. Now, silk fibers are separated from the cocoons by boiling. This is the important one, boiling. That is how you separate. The separation of silk fibers from cocoon is reeling. So once the silk fibers are obtained, what do we do? The next, the same process. Spinning is done to get the silk yarn, right? Then weaving. Weaving is done to get the fabric. And at last we get the silk cloth. Okay. So this is how the silk fibers are obtained from the silkworm. And I forgot to tell you a very important story. This silk worm to silk fiber, that is the sericulture process, is widely seen in India, and India is one of the countries who has the largest production of silk, and China is the leading one in sericulture and producing silk fibers. So who first invented that the silkworm can give us silk fibers? It is from a story that in China, when an emperor and empresses were living, the empresses was very worried about the mulberry leaves often eaten by the caterpillar. So she was like, why is the caterpillar eating the leaves and damaging the plant? She was very worried, and this led to the discovery of their silk fibers. So one day, accidentally, when the cocoon of the caterpillar fall in her coffee, it started to spread separately. Okay, the fibers started to come out separately. So that led to the foundation of your silk fibers. This is a story given in your textbook. Okay, children, so with this I would like to stop. I hope you understood. After watching this, you can watch the animated video which I have given you for your better understanding. Thank you, children.